Valkyrie.
Valkyrie, how you doing? Thank you so much. Nice work. All right, great shot. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, Marcus Williams. I'm an illustrator, aka Marcus the Visual Online in South.
I just think it's super dope, and it looks like other people think it's dope too. They've been checking out the Afrofuturism book and my Rayla series.
My name is Afua Richardson. I am a comic book illustrator, and you might know some of my work from Black Panther World of Wakanda, X-Men '92, All-Star Batman.
My Adidas ND, close as can be. We make a mean team, my Adidas and me. We get around together. We're down forever, and we won't be had when warning bad weather. I spoke those words, and that's why rappers can get sneaker deals.
This panel because a lot of the panelists are great minds who love Afrofuturism, love to see Black people in creative spaces. A lot of times when we talk about the future, it's not a lot of people of color in those images. So this gives us a chance to understand why that is and who are the people trying to make a change with seeing us in the future.
All right. What you think about the most recent Spider-Man movie?
Oh, I loved it. A great moment that I actually missed was my nephew. He's 3 years old, and he's always energetic and running around, but as soon as the movie turned on, he sat down Indian style and yelled out, "That's me." And I was like, wow, to be able to be only 3 years old to recognize the character and to be able to relate just off looking at him was really important to me. It was very touching.
Because Albert Einstein said, like you said, he said, the imagination is, now this is the smartest man in history almost, right? Right? When you think of the most educated people, you know, Steve Jobs and all this, but Albert Einstein was like the pinnacle. He said, the imagination is more important than knowledge. He didn't say knowledge wasn't necessary. He said imagination is more important than knowledge because what this whole Comic-Con represents is, look what happens when you put imagination with knowledge. Or look what happens when you put imagination with information. So the whole hip-hop thing that defines the Black existence was able to transform itself from just being labeled ghetto music. Or, you know, in the beginning hip-hop was black ghetto music. But now it's the #1 music on the face of the earth.
Yes, sir.
And, you know, hip-hop itself, but also just music and the arts and everything, dictates what people drive, what they wear, how they walk, how they want to talk, what they smoke, what they eat, and all of that. So it's a way of life. So we were kids thinking that we didn't have anything. And those things that we didn't have were so-called all the material resources of real estate and money. But hip-hop came along and tapped into that power that allowed us to change our future.
Yes.
And it was all just from the thing of your imagination. Hip-hop said, what do you want to do? And some young boys and girls from the South Bronx that was living in a universe that was burned and said, I want to play my music. So hip-hop said, take your music to the damn park, plug it into the street line, and turn it up so the world can hear it. And then the other kids that really didn't know nothing about electricity and jazz and the breakbeats and the whole DJ thing, Afrofuturism doesn't exclude anybody because it's something that's inside of all of us. I mean, if the Black person is the original man, you know, hip-hop, rock and roll, but all music exists. It started with the blues, with the great Black blues artists. A blues artist once said, the blues is the roots and everything else is just the fruits. So everything that's going around, you know, just add what you were saying, entertainment, art, fashion, thoughts, sciences. It all starts in the now. But it's all about being creative and artistic and innovative enough, and also not being ashamed of utilizing that thing that a lot of people are scared to speak up and talk about.
And I think it's also about taking what you have and creating something out of it.
That's what I was trying to say.
No, I mean, I'm so happy that you're here on the panel and you're talking about hip hop, because remixing, sampling, all of that is just it's another way of looking at quilt work, another way of looking at collages, another way of like celebrating, taking memory, and trying to celebrate histories that weren't always discussed and pushing them forward in a very non-linear way. So there are at least reference points as you're kind of moving on. Even if you're in troubled times and people aren't teaching certain histories, there's always elements and fragments in hip hop where you have to say, wait, what's that? And then you explore these deeper layers. I'm gonna go on a slight tangent, and that slight tangent is only that, you know, sometimes there was a lot of excitement about cyberpunk, but hip hop was happening at the same time. And cyberpunk always looked at this dystopia, but hip hop in some ways was in a dystopia, but didn't view it that way. And I think part of that is because when you think about an artist like Sun Ra, a jazz artist who came of age here in Chicago, he said that the apocalypse had already happened. You know, it's after the end of the world. And for a lot of people of African descent, the transatlantic slave trade, points in colonization, those were ultimate dystopias. So where we are now, things that came after that, it's about how you take your imagination, reimagine yourself, and push that forward. And hip hop is very much that. Last point, just that there's a book called Dead Precedents, and the subtitle is How Hip Hop Defines the Future. And I just think that it's important for us to recognize how hip hop is being analyzed and just how it's been shaping our futures, because you take something from nothing and you just build and create and use your imagination.
That's what we do.
Yes, that's what we do. And I'm sorry, that sounds gonna kill us, but I think that the beginning part of this panel is beyond Wakanda, and I think it's exciting to be in a moment where people are talking more about Afrofuturism. But I think that the key point that you opened up with is so important, that our ancestors and people who came before us, our creative and literal ancestors, have been on this for a long time. And so, to me, nothing is more Afrofuturist than the idea of the abolition of slavery. That people were born into a society where the entire political, economic, and cultural reality around them said, you are property, you are not a human being. And to be somebody like Frederick Douglass or Sojourner Truth, and to stand up and say, actually, I see myself as something beyond this, and I imagine a world that I have never seen, that nobody around me has ever seen, that nobody legitimizes, and I nevertheless know in my spirit that this is a real thing that I'm going to strive for. That is also an essence of Afrofuturism. So this is an old idea with a new name, and it's not just about like spaceships and George Clinton, although that part is super dope, super dope and important. And Chicago has been one of the cultural epicenters of Afrofuturism, going back to Sun Ra. So gotta represent that.
Well, and you might as well continue, because I wanted to really you guys to expand a little bit more on like why Chicago is the great, why people keep coming here, why people we're the minds and the thought thinkers and all that stuff.
Ask me to gush about Chicago on a panel, say no more. Say less. I think that that's a really interesting question, and I think that it has to do with this kind of dystopia that we've been talking about, and the necessity of imagination. So Chicago has been a cultural epicenter for a number of Black cultural movements, including experimental jazz, including the blues, including the Black arts movement, and I think it's natural that that would coalesce in some incredible artists and writers asking, okay, how do we envision a more beautiful future? and how do we critically re-examine our past? And to me, those things are at the heart of Afrofuturism. I also think Chicago is an exceptionally collaborative city, and so we're really good at being like, oh, I see what you're doing, and that's kind of cool. Can I be in that with you? But here's this other thing that I have to add to it, and we're really good at that. So I think that's part of why. And we like to dab each other up and uplift each other, so that helps too.
And I would say too that a lot of the black populations in Chicago came here, their ancestors came here through the Great Migration. And in the Great Migration context, you had people coming to Chicago to create a new future. So Chicago, in my mind, is what could have been the future of Mississippi had it been a different context and a different thought process. Ebony Magazine would have been in Jackson, Mississippi. You know, and I think of it that way, and I think it's important to see it that way so that you see this continuum of people constantly re-envisioning and creating spaces for you to live and grow and to think in. Someone created their version of a utopia as best they could, and you were born into it. And you had an opportunity that other people didn't have. I mean, I went to a dance school, Mayfair Academy, woo-woo! And I mean, it was created by someone who wanted to create dance schools for black students to be able to study dance. And he did that, I'm assuming, in the absence of not necessarily being able to always go to one. So he created something he didn't have for someone else, and I come through it seeing it as normal. And that's the kind of thing that's happening with a lot of the stories, you know, the creators here are doing. They're creating stories that we didn't read growing up, that we wanted to read, and now other kids and people are taking these things. They're like, oh, this has always been around. And you're like, yeah.
Well, and I gotta ask I feel like since it's so expansive, like just the idea that you can, like I said, dream whatever you want to dream, and what you dream is not what the other person's dreaming, but how do you guys individually leave a mark on such a huge, you know, idea? Because it's like infinity and beyond kind of a thing. So, yeah.
I think you should go first. I mean, you're like the icon titan in hip hop. Yeah.
Well, how do you leave a mark? I mean, it wasn't like a conscious thing that we set out to be called pioneers and legends and innovators and creators and stuff like that. I think that the need to exist without having the desire to be so seen, like it's the need to exist, but not to look at me. You must look at me. It's just the need to exist, to be seen and to be acknowledged and to be respected and to be considered, you know, human and special and all of that good stuff. I mean, our thing was like this. When we came into hip hop, we kind of noticed hip hop back in the day has a lot of similarities to the way it is now. What I mean by that, a lot of people forget that. In the beginning of hip hop, like, everybody was rapping about the same things. Everybody was talking about the same music. You know, when it first came out, and that was just because when the message came out, the message changed music. I think Rolling Stone had it right when they said the message is the greatest rap song ever done. Not because the flow is like Eminem, not because the production is like Drake. That was the perfect example of what a culture and a community of people were living and feeling in their lives. It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep from going, don't push me. It was young people expressing that feeling, but when I look back on it, I was like, yo, that's how my mother felt. That's how my grandma, that's how my uncle felt, but then you can take it far. That's how the slaves felt back in the day.
Yes, sir.
So it was speaking in an eternal existence. So for us, when we came along, once something that is culturally relevant to a community or society or people becomes commercialized, it becomes diluted, polluted, and destroyed. So when we came along, after the message was successful, every record was a message record. Life in the Ghetto, Growing Up in the Ghetto, Message 1, Message 2. But When I came into hip hop, I had a different point of view coming from the hood because I'm not in a gang, so I can't rhyme about it being in a gang. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to go to jail because I like my freedom. I thought, Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and Sojourner Truth, everybody, but they fought so we didn't have to be in this. I damn sure don't want to be in there. And, when it came to stabbing and shooting, I don't want to be around guns. I don't want bullets flying over my head because I don't want to get shot because it hurts. I'm just keeping it real. So when I came along, I noticed that, man, in the dirt poor ghetto, where all of this death and destruction and darkness is, there's kids that like to read comic books. There's straight A students. There's kids that's going to go to college. There's kids that want to be scientists. You know what I'm saying? So when I came along, it wasn't a concept, it wasn't a thing where I said, I'm going to talk about this so I could become a pioneer. I felt it was my responsibility to represent that without having any shame. So I came along and talked about wearing glasses. If you ask everybody was telling me, man, glasses is made cool because of DMC, because I wasn't afraid to rhyme about them. But prior to anybody speaking up about the glasses, my whole life as a little kid, hey, 4 eyes, hey, binoculars, hey, spectacles. So it wasn't something that was considered cool, acceptable, or powerful.
Well, you
but
said my eyes, I wore glasses. I was teased less.
Yeah, so when I got a chance, what I'm trying to say is when I got a chance to talk about it, I wasn't going to be ashamed and worry about people thinking I'm not cool. So I talked about glasses, and that made people that didn't wear glasses want to wear glasses because it was so cool. We made a song about our sneakers. You know what I'm saying? And my song wasn't about me, I'm DMC, I'm famous now, I can buy all the Adidas that I want. No, and I got $1 million in my closet. No, my song about Adidas said, my Adidas walked through concert doors and roamed all over Coliseum floors. I stepped on stage at Live Aid, all the people gave and the poor got paid. And out of speakers, I did speak. I wear these sneakers, but I'm not a sneak. My Adidas touched the sand of a foreign land. With mic in hand, I took command. My Adidas ND close as can be. We make a mean team, my Adidas and me. We get around together. We're down forever and we won't be had when worn in bad weather. I spoke those words and that's why rappers can get sneaker deals. So it's much bigger. It's much bigger than you. Everything that you do is not about you, and I think that's what we up here represent. We're telling the stories and we're taking the seats for the people to show them that they can tell those stories and take those seats too.
What's the question? How we make your mark? Wow.
Make a song about flowers and get a flower deal.
Write that down. Superheroes, and I've been saying this a lot recently, so if this is repetitive, y'all have seen me in other interviews or whatever, sorry, not sorry. But superheroes are part of our shared cultural mythology. So in our culture, we don't have, Zeus and Athena and those kinds of myths. Superheroes represent our shared understanding of what it means to be good, what it means to be brave, what it means to be flawed, and to struggle through your flaws to try to help somebody else. And so I feel extraordinarily grateful and blessed that I get to play a small role in telling a story where a black girl gets to be that. And it matters a lot for black kids, for black girls, for black people. It means a lot to me when people post pictures of, their daughters reading Ironheart. But it also, I think, is profound to think, like, what if our whole country saw black people as heroes, right? And saw black people as capable of goodness. And, I've been watching the terrible tragedy that happened in Christchurch in New Zealand. And as we watch what unfolds, if you look in New Zealand, you see at traditional ceremonial moments, people they perform haka, right? They perform the ceremonial dance that comes from Maori people. And you see white folks in there doing it too. And I think to myself, what would it mean to live in a country where the indigenous practices of that country are seen as the shared culture? Where it's like, okay, this comes from you and we know it, and this is part of who we're all gonna have that self-definition, right? And so what would it mean for America to not only love the things that Black people create, but to love Black people. Not only to love the commodities that we produce, the culture that is consumable. And so, you know, it's profound to me, and I'm grateful to be able to write a hero that hey, what up? That all children and children of all ages can look to and say that's what a hero looks like. And some of y'all have seen this, like seeing like little kids of all races running around being like, I'm T'Challa, and that is amazing, right? And all of us grew up, when I was a kid and I watched Power Rangers, I was like, okay, I can be the Black boy ranger, or I can be the Asian girl ranger. Like, I was like, I guess I'll be Trini. If we're gonna play Power Rangers, I'm just gonna be Trini, right? Because I was like, this is as good as I can get. It's kind of close. But we, as people of color, we have grown up in popular culture having to project ourselves into characters that may not look like us. And I think it's a profound thing to ask the rest of America to do that onto Black characters, and to say, how do you look at this person and say, this is what a hero looks like, right? I think that means a lot.
My apologies, I had to go to Wakanda and back. Right, the detour through Zamunda.